to Positive Nerd Podcast, the podcast that aims to bring fandoms together over subjects that divide them. Yes, we're a positive bunch. I'm here today, as always, every week, with my lovely, lovely co-host and good friend, Liz. Hello, Liz.
Hello.
Yay, Liz. Whoop. Now, here's a rundown, you guys, of what we're going to be talking about this evening. Okay, so first of all, we have, would Sam Raimi ruin Doctor Strange 2? Ooh, controversial topics to start. Number 2, we have Comic Corner. It's Liz's Comic Corner. I still need to get a thing, Liz, for the Comic Corner. We've got DC's Crimes of Passion number 1. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And then last on the list, you must read the source material to enjoy the movie or TV show. Yeah, we're going to be like getting into all of that crap gatekeepery type stuff, which is really, really boring and really annoying, but we're going to put our positive magic nerd glitter dust all over it. So if that's even a thing. I don't know if it is. So it could be. We could patent that. So Liz, let's start with Sam Raimi and Doctor Strange 2. There were some murmurings online, or some news online, that possibly Sam Raimi might be in line to direct Doctor Strange 2. I'm only going to call it Doctor Strange 2 because it's got a very, very long title. The multiverse of whatever. So I am going to look at some tweets that you sent me first, Liz. Let's read them out and then I'm going to let you explain. This is tweet number 1 from Tristan Fior. Again, we find these. They weren't sent to us. I think people are weary because of what he did with Spider-Man 3. He completely ruined the franchise and caused Sony to have to go in a totally different direction. Strong words from Tristan, but okay, that's fine. Number 2, we've got Scott Derrickson. Okay, and this is a good one. I've worked with Sam Raimi, one of the nicest people I've known in the film business, and as a director, a true living legend. What a great choice to take over Doctor Strange. Amazing. That's nice and positive. And the third one is from Phil Noble Jr. I know it's fashionable to deride Raimi's pre-MCU Spidey, but the dude nailed the weird, melodramatic, big dick energy of the early comics. This makes so much sense. Right, Liz, why did you decide to choose this topic? What are people moaning about this? For God's sake, are they moaning?
Some people are moaning about this. It is, I would have to say, when this news sort of hit the internet, I feel like, a lot of people were really excited. But then, of course, you've got, in tandem with that, a bunch of people who are kind of naysaying it and saying, well, actually, why should he direct this film when he ruined the last superhero film he did?
That's right. Sam Raimi is a really good director, right?
Yeah.
He is a really good director, and it kind of makes sense to me. But let's talk about what people mean. I'm sure people listening, because we've got quite a nerdy following, I'm sure they understand what we mean. Did he ruin the Spider-Man franchise? Did he actually ruin it? And I think we're probably thinking about that scene, that whole third Spider-Man
There's a
film
scene.
Oh my God, I played it on another stream the other night, and actually someone was in the chat and they were like, I love this. This is me all over.
I think it's hilarious. Like, I actually watch Spider-Man 3. Like, whenever I do a Raimi rewatch, I always watch Spider-Man 3. I don't, pretend it didn't exist. I look forward to the emo dancing scene.
Oh my God. I was cringing. I watched it with Paul, and Paul was like, what are we watching? And I was like, let's just stick with it. Let's just stick with it. So
it's kind of my favorite part now, I think. It just makes me laugh.
Oh my God, it's kind of like he's gone, right, dance like you're a dad, a really sad dad at a wedding, and he's kind of gone with that. And if that's the case, he's nailed it. But let's talk about that, because I think Spider-Man 1 and 2 were great. And I think he absolutely nailed that feeling, that era from the comics, and he brought that to life, that colourful, hopeful vibe in those 2 films. But did he ruin it, Liz?
Well, okay, so there's a number of ways you could kind of answer this, because did he ruin it, or did studio interference ruin it? Because notoriously, he was forced to use Venom as one of the villains. He really wanted it to be Sandman. just Sandman as the villain, and somehow you wound up with three villains. You wound up with Venom, Harry Osborn, and Sandman.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Really, really, like, I mean, you can tell, like the Venom stuff seems really rammed in. There wasn't like an enthusiasm for the character where, like there are other directors who I bet, would have loved to do Venom as their villain, but that's not really the tone of the franchise either. Like you said, it's got that kind of 1960s vibe of like, kind of bright, hopeful, that era of Spider-Man, and Venom doesn't really belong there.
No, it doesn't. And even then, I just feel when you're trying to cram, and at that point, let's remember that in terms of superhero films and Marvel, I know this wasn't a Disney Marvel property as such, but we weren't quite used to seeing so many things happening on screen at once, so
like three villains is too many villains, like, it just kind of is, like, especially if you want to give them all arcs and everything, it just, like, it doesn't really work. They could have done it with, still had the Harry Osborn stuff, and done just Sandman or just Venom, and it probably would have worked, but it was too much.
So let's think about now. So that's done and dusted, and I do feel Sam Raimi was shortchanged by the studio a little bit, and that often happens. I hear that from friends who work in the film industry, and I read that, and it's often the case, But let's move on from that, because what is done. Sam Raimi is still a good director. So what do you think about him possibly directing, I think is exciting, Doctor Strange 2?
Cool. Yeah, I think it's cool. Like, I mean, particularly because we know that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be kind of a horror film. Like, that's something that's been said. Like, it's they're kind of going to go for a dark tone with this movie, and like a dark, trippy tone. And like Sam Raimi does dark and trippy really well. Yes. He's a horror director. The film he followed up Spider-Man 3 with is like a great film, Drag Me to Hell. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, it's awesome and super dark and super trippy. And like tonally, like, I could see that tone working really well in like a, sort of Doctor Strange film, that's just crazy and over the top. And, and particularly if you're going into the multiverse and some of the ideas, that we kind of, have been teased might play into Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, like we now in the last week, super nerds will have seen. In fact, not even if you're a super nerd, Liz. Honestly, like everyone. I woke up. Was it Monday? I think I woke up.
Yeah,
I think it was Monday because we wake up and we get all the stuff from the night before, and I was like driving on my way to like a thing and. Paul was like, what are you watching? He was like, I had one eye open. I was like, I have to see this. And so we saw the stuff from the Super Bowl, right? And so tell us about the Super Bowl stuff, because the WandaVision stuff looks interesting. How does that all connect in with what you were talking about?
That, okay, so I, like, with the Disney Plus stuff, Kevin Feige's already said, yes, the series on Disney Plus will play into the cinematic universe, like, unlike, sort of with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil and, and all that stuff, like, that has been very peripheral. Apparently the Disney Plus stuff is supposed to play directly into storylines in the films.
So we have to watch it then. We can't skip it. We have to watch it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Okay. And WandaVision particularly, I think is going to have a real knock-on effect with Doctor Strange 2.
I'm thinking WandaVision, she's gone a bit mad, right? Because we're seeing all these strange scenes. Because you told me a couple of days ago that some people thought the image that we can see now, for those that are listening on iTunes and Spotify, put up an image now and it's Wanda in the Scarlet Witch. Sort of looks more like cosplay than anything else.
I did this exact cosplay. There are photos, I swear to God.
Oh, yes, we will see those in a future podcast. I have the Liz... Your cosplay is good, Liz.
Thanks.
Your cosplay is amazing. She's very good at cosplay. Domino was the other one, right?
Yeah, there's a couple. Domino, Punisher. Yes, a few things.
I'm very lazy. If I could podcast as myself in pajamas, if I could podcast cosplay as myself in pajamas, if I could just make that a thing, everyone, if you want to cosplay at the next Comic-Con, me in pajamas. Easy. Just get on a dark wig. So what did people think about this image of it was like almost like Scarlet Witch cosplay? Did they think it was real?
Yeah, like there were all these people like making comments like, "Oh, well, what, like Disney can't afford to like, get her a good outfit. This looks like cosplay." It's like, I think you may have missed the point, my friends.
Oh my god! I can't believe they looked at that and they were like, "Oh my god, what is this? There's no budget." Jesus Christ, guys, scrape the surface. Look a little bit further. So what did you think of this when you saw this? What's your take on this?
Okay, my take on this. I think, okay, so the Super Bowl trailer, I must have watched it like 200 times. Like, I think it looks so amazing. And particularly all the WandaVision stuff, because I think that's the stuff that's like, they've actually filmed a lot of and that they're willing to share. And you get the vibe from WandaVision that it, like, very much what I'm taking away from that trailer and what I think makes a lot of sense in the context of what they're going to do with Doctor Strange 2, probably, is that it is riffing on one of my absolute favorite Marvel Events storylines, which is House of M. Which, if you've ever read that, you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's a very famous storyline by Brian Michael Bendis in which the Scarlet Witch kind of loses it. Like, she goes, she goes into her own head. In the story, like, it's because she, had these two twins that she had actually, like, her powers just kind of went out of control and created them. And she, she believes she's losing them, and she goes nuts and basically takes the whole Marvel universe kind of down with her into an alternate reality without realizing she's doing it because she has these reality warping powers. So we know that where we left with the Vision in Endgame and everything, he's dead. So, theoretically, this could all be in Wanda's head, but it could be rippling out into reality.
I have a friend who, and the reason why we became friends at university was because I used to doodle, like, image, like, on my, instead of looking, so I'm getting to the point in a second, but instead of, like, writing notes, I would doodle things like Rogue. I would draw Storm on my notes, and my friend was like, "Oh my god, you like the X-Men?" And every time we talk about the X-Men, he's just like, "I hate Scarlet Witch, she's such a bitch." He just hates her. And I'm like, what? It's not her fault. And he's like, she destroyed everything. She destroyed everything. And he won't get over it. He just won't, Liz. And I've tried. And I'm like, she's good now, right? And even in the film, he's like, she's okay. She's okay. Like, he can't look at her.
Can't get over it. I love it. I love Wanda. She's one of my favorites, actually.
I love Wanda too. Actually, I think she's really, really great because she's come through that now. I keep trying to tell my friend that I'm like, it's cool. Let's focus on Emma Frost because she's the real bitch. So, sorry.
Love Wanda, love Emma. Two of my faves.
Sorry, Liz. Sorry. You know my feelings about Cyclops and Emma Frost.
I have strong feelings of love.
And I have strong feelings of hate. But yeah, like you know what, Liz? I know, actually, it's half and half online because you were telling me that there were some people groaning and moaning about this.
Yeah.
About the Sam Raimi thing, but some people really supporting him.
Totally.
So I'm into it.
Including Scott Derrickson, the director who just departed, Multiverse of Madness, and who directed the first film.
Yeah, you know what? I'm stamping a big old red stamp of positivity all over this.
Me too.
I'm into it. I don't really see, and if anybody's got a problem with Sam Raimi and they've said that he destroyed the franchise and they had to move on, so what? Like, he didn't, and and so what? It's gone. It's done. It's fine. Like, and some people, the whole emo dance, that has become a thing now. So
love the emo dance.
If anything, it's become it's grown arms and legs. It's become a meme. It's become GIFs. It's become everything. So I really want to see you cosplaying as emo dancing Tobey Maguire.
I mean, but like, all I would need to do is dance. Like, I've already got, like, the dark black outfit, and
you just need to. I could do your hair.
I just need to find a staircase to dance up and down. And,
Oh my God, Liz, it has to happen. If and when you're coming back to the UK, it has to freaking happen. So I'm stamping positivity all over that shit. Let's move on now to Comic Corner. I've got to do this properly. Ready? Liz's Comic Corner!
Hey!
Yay! It's Liz's Comic Corner for all you comic nerds out there. And if you're not a comic nerd and you're watching this or you're listening to this and you're going, oh my god, this is so nerdy, or oh my god, I'm not sure, listen along, because Liz, I think you always explain comics in a really simplified, really enthusiastic way that makes me want to like read the things I've not read. Which is the point. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, Liz, what have you chosen this week?
This week, I have chosen DC's Crimes of Passion #1. It's written by various artists and writers from DC Comics. And it is an 80-page Valentine's Day special.
Yes, and one of my very good pals, Mr. Jay Baruchel, has written a story for this issue as well. So I'm quite excited. I haven't read it yet, because full disclosure, I'm going to say this from the start, I haven't had time to read this week. This is the one comic I just haven't. When you said 80-page special, I was like, no.
It's a big one. It's a big one. But you know what? That said, I read it. I sat down to read it. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel like I was sitting there for that long. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, is it finished?
Oh,
is it done?" I flew through it. I was shocked. Like it really wasn't. Because sometimes big chunky comics like that can be a bit of a slog when like some of the stories are really good, but some of them are a little boring, or sometimes you get a mixed bag. But this time, I really felt like they were all really good.
So tell me a little bit more about this. And it's an 80-page special, as you mentioned, for Valentine's Day, which is great. So what kind of stories have we got in the comic?
So basically, I mean, the whole thing, which I really like about it, is that it kind of is like an homage to like these like golden age, sort of crime romance books. And it kind of takes that tone, particularly for the first story. If you read the first story in the book, it's a Batman story. It includes this kind of obscure early love interest of Batman's that even I had never read any of the stories featuring her, called Linda Page. Who, she's a socialite and she works like in a home for the elderly, and it's very, very film noir. Mm-hmm. It's by Steve Orlando, who writes like a lot of stuff for DC, and the artist is Greg Smallwood, who I really like, and he kind of really captures that that tone of like a film noir. And she's, basically she doesn't know she's dating Batman, and she loves Bruce Wayne, but she hates Batman, and it becomes this sort of tortured romance thing. And so most of these stories don't have super happy endings. Some of them do, like a lot of them are bittersweet, but they're all literally what it says on the tin, Crimes of Passion. They all have to do with, betrayal and love lost and all that sort of thing.
Oh God, I just feel like with Batman, it's always complicated. Like Facebook
status.
Complicated
with Batman. Come on,
it's complicated. Oh my God, can you actually imagine what it would actually be like to date Batman? And you knew he's Batman. I mean, Liz might be quite into that, right? But I want to laugh. Liz, would you be up for dating Batman?
I don't think I would be up for dating Batman. No, I couldn't date Batman, but I could definitely sort of hang out with his friends. I'd like to be in the Bat family,
I love that. It's
just your sort of granite-faced dad figure,
Liz, I really want to take you out for dinner. No, I mean, I really like you as a friend. I just don't want to ruin our friendship. That whole line, oh no.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. And then he goes and has another torrid affair with Catwoman, and you're like, see, this is why I would never date Batman. I just feel like it would be
yeah, I mean, I am not good at scaling roofs. That's where he has most of his sort of dates. Is on top of roofs, and
Yeah, you would be after a while a wee bit you know what? I'd kind of like to go for dinner. I'd kind of like to be inside, and maybe not in latex or rubber. Right. Maybe in pajamas, Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, I don't know how to use a zip line. Like, I mean, there's all sorts of things that would pose challenges.
Yeah, it's very, very impractical dating Batman. Very impractical. Let's move on to this next image I've got up on the screen right now. It's of Black Canary and Green Arrow. So, did you read this one? You've read all of them then?
I've read all of them, yeah. Like, so there were a couple of them that like actually feature couples. Like, like a lot of them, were, kind of just like, there's a great little Catwoman story where, she's obviously on her own as she usually is. Like, maybe if people are reading the comics at the moment, she's not. But, Catwoman is notoriously happy to just be like a single lady and like go do her thing and flirt with Batman sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so there's like, a couple of good stories where it's just a single character and, they kind of find themselves like, mixed up in somebody else's romantic adventure. But then there are a couple where there's like, the actual super couples like Green Arrow and Black Canary and Nightwing and Batgirl. And I like that there's this nice variety, like, there's some weird characters, some really obvious characters like Catwoman, but then some weird characters like Wildcat or Slam Bradley or the Pied Piper. Where, it's just like you don't really need to know who they are. Like, even if you're unfamiliar with them, the stories really work.
So this is all about couples, and I love this idea of like having all these little like torrid little love stories. And like, what about you, Liz? Like, if we're talking about like comic book couples, let's just keep it comic book couples. Who are your favorite comic book couples of all? Please don't say Cyclops and Emma Frost, please. Please. who are your favorite? I was like, as I said that, I was like, she's gonna say that, isn't she?
Well, obviously I'm gonna say that.
Okay, aside from Cyclops and Emma Frost, who are your favorite comic book couples?
I really like Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon, who like that's Jay Baruchel's story is about Nightwing and Batgirl, who, they're one of my favorites, ongoing. The story with them was really good. I really liked it. It's just, the usual of them, like having, trouble being able to define their relationship. And
so complicated.
Yeah. It's so complicated to be a superhero these days and date.
So are you more of a Nightwing girl than a Batman girl? So if they both asked you on a date, you'd be saying yes to Nightwing?
Like totally Nightwing. Like, yeah, definitely.
I feel like Liz, after a couple of dates, might be like, I feel like, have you ever tried a metal arm? I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, like, it's worth a shot. I mean,
it's like, have you like, tried metal armor? What's that, Liz? Just on one arm. Just on one arm.
You don't need both, but...
You could be just on one arm. So Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, then, eh? For me, it's Rogue and Gambit, as you know. Like, yeah. I just love Rogue and Gambit. But particularly from... Well, I loved Mr. and Mrs. X recently. Like, I loved that. That was, like, my dream come true when that came out. Because I was like, oh my god, I can relive all of my Rogue and Gambit, like... love fantasies once more.
Yeah, it's a really fun book too. Like, it's I really liked that.
So fun. Twist. It's like so cheeky and fun, and like the the writing's great and the art's great. But I just love a good comic book couple because comics can be a lot of things, but they can also be like massive soaps,
Oh, totally. That's like, one of the best things about them,
What about worst comic book couples? Are there any bad comic book couples that you can think of? I'm just going to say Cyclops and Emma Frost.
No!
I'm going to say Cyclops and Emma Frost. F those guys. That bitch.
No! Oh, that's... who's a bad comic book couple? Yeah, sometimes I'm not feeling it. Like, let me try and think. Like,
that's a harder one. Let's think of some couples. Let's see. We've got like I'm thinking who Storm's been with in the past. I like Storm. Storm could be with.
He dated Wolverine for a while. That was weird.
Oh no, that's kind of like the equivalent. That is like the comic book equivalent of Joey and Rachel from Friends.
Yeah,
dating.
Yeah, like totally. I'm in agreement. Yeah, that was kind of like, like that's like dating your sister, kind of.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good example.
I think that one's definitely on the list. That one's got to be on the list. And I'd say Cyclops, Emma Frost for me. But it's that way where sometimes I feel like some writers put things together and you're like, why didn't you need? They don't need to be in love. Like, there
No.
doesn't need to be a thing.
Yeah,
Like,
let them be pals. Like, that's fine.
yeah. Oh no. Oh, even the thought of Wolverine and Storm just makes me
I
cringe.
know. It's icky, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It's bringing me back to my Joey and Rachel days. Like
Mhm.
when that episode came out, I was like, oh my god, like what are they doing? It's like the run of the
Yeah.
things. But yeah, like I love a good comic book couple, and it sounds like I'm
Oh,
gonna go back and read DC's Crimes of Passion. Is there any
it's good.
story you'd recommend?
It's good.
Any?
Like, yeah, you know what? I had some favorites. Like the Batman story, I felt like really encapsulated the tone of kind of what they were going for, which is that, like, that sort of 1940s, like Casablanca, like that type of vibe. But the other stories, it was all felt very modern, even though I think that was like kind of the template they were working for. I really liked the Pied Piper story, and that's not a character that I read all the time, but he's sort of like a super villain told, like turned hero, who's usually like a flash rogue. And they had a really cool story with him that I really really liked. I liked the Batwoman story with she has to work with Maggie Sawyer, who's her ex, who's like a detective who from Metropolis, originally, but
I've
played a
never
big
read
role.
any Batwoman. Never
Central.
read any Batwoman at all. Never read
Uh,
any of it at
okay,
all.
there's some really good Batwoman. There's some really good Batwoman. I would start with the Greg Rucka Batwoman Elegy series.
Oh,
It's absolutely stunning. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's like J.H. Williams is the artist, and it is like just gorgeous to look at.
okay,
Um,
okay. Because I'm always with Batwoman. I don't know about the character apart from watching the CW shows now. And so I have no point of reference. And I think for a lot of people who are either fair weather fans of comics or not too into comics, it is quite intimidating when you're looking at a character you might have seen on screen. You might want to get into it, but where do you start?
this is I here okay here like this sort of thing I think is a great place to start. Like, you read the Batwoman story in this, get an idea of who the character is, in 8 pages, because that's all it is. And then you're like, oh, okay, I feel like I have a handle on that character. Let me go check out a book. I feel like these kind of specials and stuff like that are a really good way to get to meet characters
Okay.
that you then might take an interest in.
Yeah, I think that's a good way, definitely. Because I think with comics, it's one of those things that is such a specialist thing as people like. It's not like going, I like movies, I like TV. When somebody says I'm into comics and they really start talking about comics, for me it's the same feeling sometimes in the past I used to get when I'm sitting with a bunch of people talking about sport. There's certain things that are gaps. I'm quite knowledgeable about comics, but I also
Mhm.
have a lot of gaps. And I think a lot of people might feel like that, where they sit in a pub or around a table and they go, oh, God, I can't join in. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And you know what, though? Like, everybody starts somewhere, like, and like it's not a race to like read the most things. Like,
No.
it's just I feel like it's a really inclusive thing. And like, even if you might feel intimidated, like, by people just kind of blah 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 around you, like those people who are doing it don't feel like that about you. Like, they don't, like judge how much you know. They just like that you're into it, and and that you might be receptive to like reading some stuff that they recommend because they love it and they love sharing it. So I feel like it's one of those things where I just like, even if you've only read a few things, or you've read nothing, like there's you start somewhere and you find your way in, and if you like it, then then it's like vast. It's like there's so much great stuff. So it's nice to be at the beginning. you
Yeah,
know
exactly. So I think that's really great advice. If you're like thinking about getting into comics, or you're a fair weather comic book fan, then just get into it and start talking to people.
Yeah, go to
Only,
your shop, like go to your local shop. Like, honestly, like, I mean, even if like the people who are working there, like, don't seem friendly at first, if you kind of express that you're like, you genuinely want recommendations and you want to talk to them about the stuff that they like, then they'll open up to you. And you can find all sorts of great things from those people.
absolutely. Only people that are like gatekeepers or whatever they're the dickheads. So avoid those people.
And I
There's
never meet them in real life. Like, I really feel like those people exist online, and
yeah.
they're far between.
Yeah, they are. I think that is really online thing, which actually segue. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that was what we were doing. Look how professional. Look how far Liz and I
It's
have come.
seamless.
You guys listening, we've come so far. We're like totally professional podcasters now. This is the next segment. We're talking about gatekeepers, right? You must read the source material to enjoy the movie or television show. Like, like it's so annoying. Now I don't have any tweets as examples, but basically what I mean by this is sometimes I've had conversations in real life, but mostly online, where people deride others because perhaps they didn't watch the original film or read the original thing, the source material, that they don't understand the comic book characters as much as they do, and I just feel like it's a really unfriendly, strange, gatekeepery. I don't know why people feel like that. Why do you think they feel like that, Liz?
I don't know. I think it might just be like, sort of a like, oh, well, this is my thing. You can't have it type of deal, or you can't enjoy it in the same way I do because I'm such a super fan. I feel like it's sort of just like a passive aggressive, way of saying that somebody's like, not quite worthy of enjoying it in the same way that you are.
Yes, you're right. You're right. It's that passive aggressiveness of not quite worthy, and what makes you worthy to enjoy something? That's such a strange concept. It's like
Right.
anyone's worthy to enjoy or not enjoy something. It's absolutely fine. Like Game of Thrones, for example, right? That's a really good example. I think most people haven't read Game of Thrones. If we think how popular Game of Thrones was, probably a smaller percentage. Maybe they would come to afterwards, but a smaller percentage of people probably have read it. I didn't read any of the Game of Thrones novels, did you?
No, I made the conscious decision not to actually because I had the first book, and it's a massive chunky book, so it was just sitting on my shelf. And when the series was coming around, I was like, oh, maybe I'll read this before, and then I decided not to because the buzz from the show was like so good, and when I started watching the show, it was so good that I was like, actually, I don't want to be spoiled for this. I want to enjoy it this way.
Yeah.
And when it's all finished, when it's all said and done, I'll read the books, which I still plan to do.
Yes. At the moment, I'm watching Stephen King's The Outsider.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's really, really good. And you know what? I have never, never read never read a Stephen King novel, like never, and I've enjoyed everything. I even enjoyed the Langoliers, the I think was that a film, a TV show. Anyway, when I was younger, I thought the Langoliers was really weird, and that's Stephen King. But I watch anything Stephen King. I just haven't read any of the novels. But I asked you, Liz, to send me some things that you enjoyed. So for example, I've got here like Ghost in the Shell, Batman: The Killing Joke, and I've got The Boys. Right. So.
Yeah.
In terms of Ghost in the Shell, have you read the source material?
I have never read Ghost in the Shell. I've never read the manga. And it is, but the anime is absolutely incredible. Like, that is something where it's just like, it's from the 90s and it looks amazing. Like,
Oh my God.
if anybody tells you, like, like you need all this, like, sort of the technology we have now to make something look amazing, like, I feel like the anime is just absolutely stunning. And it, for me, like, I have in fact seen the film with Scarlett Johansson like from a couple of years ago, and I feel like the anime still looks better, still captures the tone better, and it, it stands up so well to this day. And I've never felt the need to read the manga. I might one of these days, but I felt like I got something really incredible out of just watching the anime, and I kind of like to almost retain that feeling.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I have looked at the manga and I'm like, cool, but I didn't even know when I first watched Ghost in the Shell, and I don't even know how I came to it actually. Like, I was maybe in my late teens or something, but I was just discovering a lot of things at that time, and those opening scenes and the music, everything goes. I know what they tried to do in the film. They were trying to garner that same feeling, that you have when you watch the anime, but I didn't enjoy the film so much. And even then, if people did enjoy the Scarlett Johansson film, I wouldn't say, well, you can't enjoy that unless you've seen the manga or read, because it's like, what is the source material? What is the original thing? But
Right.
I know what you mean. I've flicked through the manga, but I never really wanted to read it. I'm kind of.
Yeah, I feel like the anime, I just loved it so much that I was kind of like, you know what, that's how I'm gonna enjoy this thing. Maybe one day I'll go and read the manga, but I haven't felt compelled to as yet. And like, the Scarlett Johansson movie wasn't terrible, but it totally missed the mark and the tone for me that I got from the anime. So
Yeah, 100%. I think I would say to someone, so manga aside, I'd probably say to somebody, right, okay, if you've seen the Scarlett Johansson film, you don't have to go back, but I would suggest that you watch the 90s anime. I think it's amazing. Now, why did you choose Batman the Killing Joke? We've got Batman the Killing Joke here.
okay, so this is an example of one that I actually think, okay, maybe you should just stick with the source material.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, why?
uh,
Why?
oh, because okay, so I will be like upfront and admit I have not watched this as yet because of everything that I heard about it. Like, so they decide to flesh out the story because the Killing Joke is like, it's one of the most famous. It is probably the most famous Joker story ever written. It's Alan Moore. It's incredible. It's like, this, it's kind of, looked at as the most canonical origin of the Joker that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, it's amazing. It's Alan Moore at his finest. But it's only a single issue. It's one issue. So it's actually pretty thin as far as like, turning it into a film.
Yes.
And from what I gather about the film is that they decide to flesh it out by having this whole really messed up story in which Batman has like a love affair with Batgirl.
Oh, I
Barbara,
saw a clip of this.
and like there's like a whole rape storyline or something like that. Like the whole
Yes.
thing is super gross.
I would say avoid it because I've watched a part of this actually, Liz, and it's not worth it. Just stick
It's
to
like it's super super gross, like to me, to think about like Batman and Barbara Gordon touching each other in any way, like the whole thing, and like then to throw in like a rape storyline. It's just like, oh no, please, like, um. So yeah, I mean, like they decided to make some creative changes to it that I'm just like, yuck, don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've gone from one where it's like, oh yeah, like like you don't need to read the source material, just enjoy the movie. In this case, I would say like just read the book, don't watch the movie. So that's I guess it can work on both ways.
What about The Boys? Why have you chosen The Boys? I've not watched The Boys yet. I've read
Okay.
The Boys. I've read it, but I've not watched
So
it.
I decided to go for three different takes on this theme. So
Okay.
like, Ghost in the Shell, good, adaptation, Batman Killing Joke, bad adaptation, and Back to the Boys. The Boys, okay, so I have now, I have read the all of The Boys,
Mm-hmm.
and I've watched the first season of The Boys, and this is an instance where I actually think like the show is doing it better than the comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, and I'm a huge Garth Ennis fan, but
Oh.
like The Boys, I have a kind of a mixed relationship with The Boys because sometimes I felt like The Boys just seemed a little bit like almost like he was just you could almost feel this bitterness that Garth Ennis had towards sort of DC Comics
Yeah.
and superheroes at that time.
Yeah. It's a little bit mean. I feel it's a bit
Emanating
mean.
off the pages, and like sometimes it went a little too far for my taste. And I felt like the TV series took like kind of the best of it
Mm-hmm.
and ran with that, and then also just kind of like took it in its own direction as well. Like it made some really big changes from the story while keeping like, keeping to the characters, keeping to everything you loved about The Boys, and just getting rid of all the stuff that I didn't love so much. So this is like a rare instance where I'd say actually like, like watch the show first and read the source material after, because actually I'm thinking the show is actually kind of like a level up from the comics at least where we stand now.
Interesting, because it had been years and years. Since the boys had come out, and then my friend was like, right, you have to read all the boys, and he had of them all, and he gave them to me, and I love Garth Ennis, but I loved the first few, and I was like, okay, this is cool, because he gave me all the volumes, and then I kind of the middle it suffered for me because I felt the same. It was like very mean. It was very cold.
Mean spirited, and kind of like, and sometimes like, it would just take it like too far for me to like even be funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the show is awesome. I actually really loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and it just like it gets everything right that it needs to get right, and
Okay.
surprises you.
Okay. Okay. I'm up for that. I'm gonna watch it because I think that was what was putting me off. I think the
It's good.
fact that yeah, like it was a bit mean, but I did like look at the show, so I'm gonna look into that now. So I'm gonna go with what I've chosen, right? So I've chosen Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club and then Paula Hawkins' The Girl on the Train. Right, so for two different reasons. So when I first saw Fight Club in the cinema, I didn't know who Chuck Palahniuk was because I was in my late teens. I was in a Discovery tip. And we instead of going to the Sixth Sense that night, my cooler older cousin took me to see Fight Club. He's like, trust me, it'll change your life, and it did. And then I went on this Chuck Palahniuk, like, I went straight to the Waterson's, my bookstore, the next day, and I bought the book, and I inhaled it, and I read the book whilst listening to the soundtrack, because I was that sad. I was like, oh my god. with,
That
my
would have been me too.
with my little CD player, my little headphones in, my CD player, my portable CD player. And I frigging loved you know what, like loved I love them both. They're very very different, but I wouldn't have had to have read Fight Club to enjoy Fight Club the film. So like I feel it was fine. Now with The Girl on the Train, this is not a book that I would usually read, and it was a couple of years ago, and it was Christmas. I had more time to read, and I wanted a page turner, like just a daft page turner, and this was a recommendation that came up, and I started reading it, and oh my god, I was like so into it. I inhaled it within a couple of nights. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The characters were really compelling. The story moved along very well, and she was quite a well-rounded, fleshed-out sort of character for this kind of book. But then I got really excited about the film, watched the film, and I was like, "What is this piece of crap? This is so bad."
Yeah, it doesn't always work out.
Oh, it doesn't always work out, and I was just like, Jesus, it's the same with The Walking Dead as well. I love the comics, but what do you think, Liz, about The Walking Dead? Like the series?
I haven't watched enough of the series to really judge it. Like, I like that it did like a lot of different things to the
Mm-hmm.
comic. I've watched like the first like sort of two seasons of The Walking Dead, and I thought it was like pretty good. And I like that it's just like, oh, okay, it made all these like creative decisions that are really different to what happened in the comics. Because otherwise, I'd be bored watching it, if I knew everything that was going to happen. And I did dip in on like the sort of like famous issue 100 episode,
Mm-hmm.
with the baseball bat, um, and I thought they did a really good job with that. But yeah, it's like it's another one of those things where like I feel like if you want to read the source material, like like if you wanted to read The Walking Dead and watch the TV series as well, I think it's cool that you can get two different experiences from
Yeah,
those things
yeah,
and be able to
absolutely.
enjoy both. Like and but I don't think you need to have read The Walking Dead at all to watch the TV
No,
series.
you don't. It's so
Not
different.
even at all. Like
So different.
and yeah, absolutely. And like, if you really like something, you see it on TV first, like, for example, somebody who might have watched the first episode of Lock and Key this week, um,
Yes, Lock and
like,
Key.
like, all right, enjoy it whichever way you want to watch it, but like, like do go read those books because they're amazing. So I just like that these things exist, so that maybe people who, have no idea what the comic is want to go read the comic afterwards
Yeah,
and discover
exactly. I mean, it doesn't mean like when I talked about Stephen King earlier. One day I think I will want to go and read some of his short stories and read and pick out some of the novels that people recommend. But then I hear from like reading the main points of it. It's so different. I think from what
that.
I saw in the 90s TV thing and also in the film. But with The Walking Dead, it's just not for me. I think I got to I think we got to when they got to the prison after the governor, and those moments in the Walking Dead comics are just so amazing, and I just didn't feel there were similarities and differences. So then I thought, you know what, like you said, just you can enjoy one or the other, it's fine. I just thought I'm going to enjoy the comic, and I'm not even going to look at the TV series anymore because it's just not for me. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not my thing at all. But yeah, I think generally speaking, that whole kind of the gatekeepers online are something that really annoy me because
Oh, yeah. Because it's so silly. It's just like, why discourage people from watching something that you yourself apparently seem to like? Like, like why try and take ownership of something in a way that is actually not yours? And, like you should want to share with other people if it's so great.
Exactly. And that way, like, when you have conversations with people as well, and someone might not be as knowledgeable or hasn't read the thing or hasn't watched the thing, like, for example, The Thing, that comes to mind, right? The Thing, the early 80s film, it was amazing, but I'm not going to go back and watch the 50s film or whenever it was out. It's like Scarface, like, I like Scarface, but I'm not going to watch the 30s film, or the 20s or the 30s film. I'm not going to go watch that. Like, that's the source material. Does that count? If you have to watch everything. Plus, I've got no friggin' time to do that. Like, I've got to watch other stuff.
No.
But we should encourage people. Like, it's about the joy and the love of pop culture, because it's such an escapism from paying the rent, paying bills, all the problems we've got. So if somebody sits around at a table or you're at the pub and they don't quite know something, encourage them and inform them, but don't deride them. There's like there is a difference. And I have been in that situation before. I don't know about you, Liz, where not very often these days, but back in the day, where people might go, oh, you've not listened to that album, or you've not watched that film.
Yeah. Like, you used to get it with music a lot, I think, and I'm sure you still do, but where it's just like, somebody would give you like kind of the side eye or whatever, if you hadn't listened to every single EP, like, from a band you're just discovering.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just discovering it. Also, I'm not a computer. I can't know all of the things. Like, I just can't know all of the things. So frigging weird. I don't know. I think with the gatekeepers thing, like, everyone listening, everyone watching live, and I want to do this too. If I ever see that online, don't be mean to the person that's the gatekeeper, but go and defend the person that the gatekeeper is pointing at. And just try and bring them into your positivity instead, and show them the way. Give them the light. That's what I think. Liz, we're at the end of the podcast already. Oh my God, like, it seems to fly by. Like, it's because it's such enjoyable chat all the time. It's so enjoyable. Now, as you said before we started the podcast, you don't have a comic lined up just yet for next week's Comic Corner. So what are we thinking then? What are your thoughts about that? What should we do?
Well, we've got a couple of options. So I was just looking at the list of things that have come out this week, and there are some interesting things. There's a couple of issue ones. Maybe we could ask for the feedback of everybody here.
Yeah, sure. I think
so there's like, I like to choose issue ones because they're just good jumping on points for people. So there's a Gwen Stacy issue 1.
Right.
It's like the first part of a 5-part mini-series.
That sounds good. Let's make that choice number 1. The Gwen Stacy number 1. Right, okay.
Issue 1.
And what other issue 1s have we got? Let's choose a couple
Nebula.
more.
So there's Nebula issue 1.
Oh, I've never read Nebula. Okay, Nebula issue 1.
Yeah, it's like she's a cool character. I mean, she played a great role in the Guardians films. Like, and that might be kind of cool because she's like I feel like she's a slightly underrated character.
She got more of an outing as time went on.
She did. She actually had a big role in Endgame.
Really big role, and I think Karen Gillan plays her perfectly, like really, really well. Like, a nuanced performance, I think. So what's your third option? So we've got the Gwen Stacy number 1. We've got the Nebula number 1, which I'm kind of rooting for. And what else have we got there, Liz?
We've got a Superman Heroes issue 1.
Superman Heroes issue 1. Right, okay. Superman. Yeah. Well, what we're going to do is, for those watching this podcast live or watching after on YouTube or even listening afterwards on Spotify or iTunes, if you find myself or Liz and let us know, we will count up all the votes and count up all the feedback, and then whatever has the most positivity behind it wins. Also, if you are a member of my Discord, and I'll put a link out to the Discord on the YouTube link and on my socials, you can join the Discord and you can look at the Positive Nerd text channel, because Liz, you can put all 3 of those links up there, right? And people can have a little look to see what they're all about.
Yeah, we can get a vote or something. Like, hopefully in the next, day or two, because obviously we want to start reading it, but...
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's right. We can't have this vote happening next week. So we'll put that out pretty much straight away. So by the time this podcast is on iTunes and Spotify, you'll see it. In fact, the poll might almost be finished by then. That's how quick we're going to decide. Okay. So it'll be in the Discord. It'll be online. Try and find us. Liz, let's do the professional end outro bit. Where can we find you online, Liz?
I am at Liz C. Jordan on Twitter and Instagram.
Brilliant. And I am at WeClaire on Twitter and WeClaire here on Instagram. And of course, if you're watching along, it's WeClaire here on Twitch, where we transmit live every single week. Now, I have to say that next week, usually it's Wednesdays, but next week is going to be Tuesday, just for 1 week only. It's Tuesday for 1 week only. And then we go back to Wednesdays again. So we're only 1 day out. That's okay with you, Liz, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're only 1 day out. Okay, Purple Liz might get angry with me afterwards, but it's fine. So, guys, make sure you follow along on at Liz on Twitter and Instagram, and me on Twitter and Instagram. This has been Positive Nerd episode 5. Liz, have you enjoyed it?
So much.
Yay! Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all your nerdy positivity. And we will see you again next week on Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.